G'day friends and fans. Welcome to Dave Talk Stuff, Ukraine War Update for the 25th of May 2026. Whether it's war or peace, morality does not change. There are long-standing rules. Now, not being in the military means I don't learn these rules. But I think journalists are supposed to know them, so I try to understand. Most of the time it's fairly common stuff, limited conflict to avoid civilian casualties. You don't shoot those who surrendered, You don't starve or work your POWs. You don't parade them down Main Street like Kiev does. Although they haven't done that lately, so it's progress. Or you don't shoot surrendering Russians. Progress, they stopped doing that. No, instead of solving their overflowing POW camps, they return Russians in return for their own people now. Allegedly. We're still waiting on the rest of that swap to go ahead that they agreed to. Oh, we're still working on it. But Starobelsk, 2 days after the attack, they finally started reporting on it yesterday. The death toll up to 21, reported first, I think, in the Philippines. The BBC caught with their pants down with people asking about the story, having heard there was an attack and wondering why it wasn't in the news, asking for inquiries for information, have forced the BBC to report on it. And when they did, that's, I think, when the damn war broke. Reuters and other news agencies. Now, I'm not sure who started it first, but 2 days ago, it was a UN commission did go out there, and they came under attack while out there. And foreign journalists followed soon after. And about 16 hours ago, even Ukraine was now reporting on journalists. And the French, the socialists, and even some of the radical far-right movements are all saying the same thing. The West cannot justify Kiev's strike on Starobelsk. Starobelsk may be Russian control, but it was a university dorm. It was the teachers' college, the dormitory of students. Forensic experts have now identified the 21 victims. Russia's human rights lawyers and opposition have gone out there to examine the site, speak with people. Putin's popularity has gone up. If Ukraine has done anything, they have now given Russians a renewed vigor to fight. Congratulations, you played yourself. When footage of Russia's Omsk attack was played on Russian television, in bars and clubs across Moscow, people were cheering. There were no people. 34,000 people signed up for Russian military service, even though they weren't asking for it. They have no shortage of troops. They have no shortage of willing young men to defend the people of Lugansk. The people of Lugansk have been getting aid. People are going there with aid. People are going there to talk to the people of Lugansk. Ukraine played itself. There's Lugansk, by the way. See, it's not about whether or not I support Russia or Ukraine. I'm asking, why do you support? Because Kiev isn't fighting for its independence. It was not fighting for its independence. It was waging war against its own citizens. When the US went into Serbia, well, technically not Serbia, Kosovo, you all cheered that on. It's not your country, not your people, yet you cheered it on anyway. Same with Iraq. Then, of course, the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan have you not wanting to go into Iran. But suddenly you're putting your morals on the other countries all the time. Now telling them they can't do what you've done. But it's not like Russia's going into Iraq or Iran. They're going into a neighbouring region where there's ethnic Russians. It would be like if Canada was having a civil war and you went in to save Alberta. And then listening to Montreal whine that you're saving Alberta, even though Montreal, everyone knows Montreal is the oppressor. Now, I don't care for either side. I do not bet on either side. I have no vested interest beyond studying this conflict. But there's some things, whether it's your side or the enemy, you should not support an attack, a side that attacks a teacher's college and then blames them for starting a war. And it's like, you started the war in 2014 when you burned down the workers' union and started a general strike and brought down an elected government, and then successive governments waged war against protests against your coup. Usually when a country has a military coup, they're condemned by the United States. Obama funded it. So, shouldn't we be ending all the Obama-era mistakes, or only some of them? Why aren't we bringing pressure on Trump to end the Ukraine war? Well, because we hope he can. He's said and tried. But Europe won't let it happen. They keep promising Zelensky money. They keep forcing America to compromise, where many say we shouldn't be compromising. Whether it's Australia, New Zealand, we shouldn't be involved. Our countries can't afford the billions that Ukraine demands of us. Our economies are not that much better off than Ukraine. We just have a better... Because Ukraine offers no one anything in return. And when that so-called time comes for that mineral trade deal, I guarantee you the next president will say, oh, that was Zelensky's deal. It doesn't apply to me. Just like Zelensky said, oh, that Minsk Accord is not my deal. It doesn't apply to me. Just like the previous presidents all tore up deals. Now, they declared neutrality, and most people agree the best solution for Ukraine is neutrality with a buffer zone against Russia. A demilitarized state with a huge border wall. Very nice, thank you. But Ukraine doesn't want that. Because now they smell the blood in the water, the money, the politics, the endless committees, the special attention they get, all the money they get from all the grifters around the world, fundraising for Ukraine. When you incentivize war, you do not get peace. Now, there's a lot of conflict on the northern border that has not been reported here. Drone attack. There was a huge attack on Belgrade, in which Ukraine says, we're retaliating for Russia's retaliation. We're retaliating for Russian aggression. You blew up a school. Russia retaliated. So you tried to blow up Belgrade. So tomorrow Russia will retaliate. But Ukraine, there's no talking to Ukraine. There's no talking to the pro-Ukrainians. There's no common sense. There's only, my side has to win, you know. Why? They're the good guys. Why? Because they're my side. Yeah. I've heard that one before. Let me see. 1930s. Well, getting revenge for something that happened 20 years ago. Yes. All right, so a little bit of movement on the Northern Front. But in all realities, it's backwards and forwards movement. There's no solid change in Kupiansk or the Lugansk border or the Lyman region. The Russians have made progress further south with incursions into the outskirts of Krivny Luka, with more territory to the south captured on their way to Ravskia. As I said, that's a strategic target. Control of the Donsk, the surrounding waterways, reservoirs. You have to take Savansk. And to do that, you have to take this road and the surrounding countryside, because that will be a major operation. You need major roads to get in. So Privilegia is fallen, almost all of it. Russians are pressing, but not making progress in Krasnokovia. But they have made small progress outside Krasnokovia. They've made small progress, but not taken any major town, although Nova has all but fallen now. Pretty much, should say, has fallen. But there's where Ukraine reports clashes. You notice they're not talking about Pavlovsk anymore. They're giving up any illusion that they're still in there. Now they're talking about Reninsky. Yeah. Because Pavlovsk is way down here now. And it's way behind Russian lines now. Russia's taken more territory since. Not much, but enough for Ukraine to can't even pretend they're anywhere near Pavlovsk. A lot of misstory, although they're still pretending they're defending Ochin, when that's not true. They are, of course, trying to stop Russia from taking this strategic point here. And here, of course. And how? Because once they take these few towns here, this is lay bare. And once this is gone, that goes, then all Russia could focus on pretty much isolating Zaporozhye and peeling off these other towns and flanking this lot, pretty much forcing a border where Ukraine could have had a peace deal right now to keep all this. But how many? A lot of people now admit Ukraine's lost 1 million. They just won't say it out loud. They'll put it on their Telegram channels. But for now, Russia has not made much strategic gains. Again, no one bombing campaign from 1939 to 1944 changed the outcome of the war. It was all of them, none of them. Which is why, yeah. Now, this channel is sponsored by you, the viewing audience. Empire Valves, that's one word, Empire Valves, myshopify.com for your Empire Valves themed mugs. There's ProWritingAid, and yes. Oh, got to close the tab. Alright. Now, Russia has hit over 230 clashes reported, and that excludes air attacks. Air attacks are counted separately. 262 drones. Ukraine claims to have shot down 246 of them. That's a Ukrainian aircraft. Is that an Su-27 or a MiG? I forget which. You know, you think I would remember. Now, the Ukraine war is now under direct pressure. Robert Fico has not given up, despite Viktor Orban being somewhat ousted by Ukraine and European factions. Ukraine has not found the new Hungarian government any friendlier. In fact, they're even more hostile to Ukrainians now that Ukraine has bragged about taking down Viktor Orban. And Slovakia is now pressuring Europe to begin peace talks, serious peace talks about ending the Ukraine war. Because Ukraine can cause World War III. Even the German Chancellor has admitted that there is no chance for Ukraine to be admitted to the EU. Not in the current state it's in. That's also that there are other southern states who have been waiting and had to wait longer to join the EU. And it would be pretty much, an insult to those who had to wait to go through the process to suddenly turn around and see Ukraine handed everything on a silver platter because they could boo-hoo and get a bunch of people to boo-hoo. That's not how it should work. Rules should apply no matter what. And one of those rules is you have to give up territorial expansionism. Now, Ukrainian media has allegedly reported failures in air defense. Yes and no. It has been suggested amongst Ukrainians that air defense systems somehow failed on the night of attack, and they said they must have been hacked by Russians. Some, however, in Strana said it was a shortage of air defense missiles, that America is not coming to the table. No. Russia played better that day. For a long time, Ukraine has been lying about the number of strikes. Now and again, I believe the truth slips through. It is not 90%. It's more like 70% are shot down. It's just that lots of drones and missiles are needed, right? Sometimes as many as 8 to destroy a building or a target, I should say, a bunker. Look, sometimes you forget how small some of these drones are. Don't forget, they've got a huge wingspan, but that's fuel, and battery is huge. It's unlike a rocket. The fuel in the lot of these drones, they don't have fuel. They have batteries, and batteries don't contribute to the explosion. And you consider a town, right? How big a town is. 15,000, 25,000 buildings. Only 50 missiles. And it's not 50 missiles a day. It's 50 plus missiles a week. It's not going to destroy a lot of Ukraine. So the destruction isn't that widespread. Remember, America's dropped tens of thousands of bombs on Iran in a short period of time. More bombs were dropped on Iran in 1 month than on Ukraine in 6 months. And Ukraine has Europe rebuilding it, whereas Iran doesn't have the resources to rebuild much. Now, 5 NATO countries have flipped. Now, the UK, I thought, would have voted yes. And I thought Canada and France as well. Spain's suffered a huge setback economically, so I can understand. Italy, they've not been very enthusiastic about Ukraine. But a NATO tax, a Ukraine NATO tax of 0.25% of GDP, that was apparently a bridge too far. France, who's seeking to cut back, UK, who's faced cutbacks already, Canada, who can't afford it. Even the NATO secretary was hoping this would fail, apparently. He has not been enthusiastic. But no one wants to own this. Out of 32 member states, the proposal was only supported by 7. Even the UK wants funding to go on, but not a mandatory tax on all. They claim that if Ukraine falls, it's a springboard for threats to our security on our borders. But decolonising Russia? Russia's not colonised, you morons! Ukraine is... The Russians in Ukraine were there before Ukraine existed. NATO is trying to come up with an excuse for war, and it's not working. None of them want to say the quiet part out loud because no one wants the shame that will stink them for generations. You look at all the past leaders. Where are their families now? In hiding, changed their name, living in shame and fear. You don't see many past politicians' kids coming out saying how proud they were of their daddy and their, for World War One. No one. None of the politicians came out of World War One other than with nothing but stank on them. And the same with World War Two. There weren't many politicians who didn't have stank on them. Eisenhower was one of the few people to come out of World War Two a hero. Heck, even people were glad quietly that Roosevelt was gone. Truman didn't last much longer after that. There's a stink in wartime leadership that even Trump is trying to avoid by not getting into a serious conflict. And it's about time you realise that. It's why Putin at the end of his career has decided that, after almost 20 years of conflict, of small border conflict and attacks on ethnic Russians and incursions into Russia, did he decide. It's almost a 10-year gap between the start of the Ukraine conflict and the Russian intervention. Yes, Russian separatists shot down a jet. That's got nothing to do with Russia. There was a Ukrainian missile, and everybody knows it, but nobody wants to talk about it. And the guy who was involved has been long dead. But people still want their revenge. Why? Because they're low IQ. They think it'll make everything better, seeing others suffer. So I feel, because there's this human flaw of wanting others to feel the same pain you feel. But Russia has brought foreign journalists to Starobelsk to show them the tragedy, and they were not happy because what they were told by the briefings was different from what they saw on the ground. But that's not from Russian propaganda. That's from Telegraph on Telegram, reporting on the ground that the misery, the pouring of grief in Starobelsk. Some would say, where's the Russian air defenses? It's not a military town. Air defenses are not infinite. They can't put one in every town just because Ukraine decides to be assholes.
Коллеги, в одном месте сейчас соберемся, на две группы вас разделим.
There's going to be foreign delegations and many others, but they all came with, as you can see, from different countries and organizations to take pictures, to have a look around. There's the gap where the building was. Some of them came with security, of course, and some came with their, looking like they're soldiers, but they've got their camera and backpack, their wartime reporter gear. Now, I'm not sure, other than the Telegraph, BBC, and DW, I don't know the other organisations. I think Al Jazeera was there, but had already been there. A lot of these organisations I don't recognise. Daily Motion was there, apparently. EU news delegation was there, but there were also some people from the UN. But so far, most of the reporting has been either Indian, which I think English news, Indian English news, and who else? Well, I think the Chinese visited with the Russian delegation earlier. Yeah, a lot of them I don't recognise. EA Daily. It's French. Let's see what's there about. Yeah. Yeah, defences were unable to repel the attack. I'm going to be careful because there are some pro-Russian regions who have independent news services as well. Eurasian News, that's central. So that would be a pro-Russian news site anyway. So, right, so Eurasian News. Not necessarily. I don't know where Eurasian News is based. Anyone know? Hold on, I'll look it up. Eurasia Daily is a Russian media outlet. It's been marked by Europe as false information. Okay, so yeah. EU has revoked their publication's broadcasting license. Okay. So, if you don't spit the European narrative, that's democracy, folks. Disobey the EU and you'll lose your broadcasting license and reduce to a blog. Yeah. So, if you... Yeah. Don't follow the narrative, eh? Democracy, right? The people who talk about defending democracy take away your broadcasting rights if you don't spew the narrative now. So there's only 3 European organisations that went there, allegedly, because there's no confirmation or any proof. They don't, not outright saying they went there. So 50 organisations went there, not listed. CNN and a couple of others have reported now, so on Starobelsk, the war is unravelling, the narratives around it are unravelling, but the West is now being shamed into acknowledging an attack they denied happened, or denied it happened the way the Russians said it happened. They're so spinning the narratives. But because of the Starobelsk attack, NATO is now balked at funding the Ukraine war permanently. Could you imagine having to pay a huge sum every year in taxes to see it going to Ukraine, and then you see on the news Ukrainian women partying in Ibiza, Ukrainian women on getting all across OnlyFans, talking about how they're earning millions of dollars. Where are these millions coming from? There aren't that many members of OnlyFans, to be honest. Are they all paying $50? Hundreds? Thousands? Come on, let's be realistic. Someone's paying... It's money laundering. They take money from aid organisations, just money launder. It is incredible, at the same time horrible, how corrupt the system is, and how many people rather bury their head in the sand and pretend that any criticism of the West is pro-Russian. Let Russia fix Russia. Let China fix China. Now, Cuba, if their government has broken the law, then yes, then it's extradition. Then extraordinary circumstances apply. Otherwise, no, you leave Cuba alone. But I'm not saying hands off Cuba, because I have no proof that they are not involved in dangerous, dirty deeds. Just like Panama, Iraq. You know, we go to Libya. We know Hillary Clinton was lying about Libya. Yet the same people who cry about Iraq and Iran, or Cuba, and Iraq and Iran, are behind the massacre of people in Libya and the rise of slavery in Libya. And Obama defending the people of Mali. The same people he defended in Mali ousted the French Foreign Legion, who are protecting the government there, and are now also returning slavery to Mali in an Islamist government. Again, thank you, Obama, hey? So the same people who are telling you to support Ukraine are engaged in horrible activities. The same people who tell you that criticism of Israel is not anti-Semitism are telling you that criticism of Ukraine is fascism. What? So, it's rules for thee. Again, the left have no morals. They have no standards to adhere to. It's all subjective. And they claim, oh, it's nuance. There's no nuance in bombing a school. If you have proof America bombed a school, prove it. But all I see is the left engaged in, oh no, if you're going to pay reparations to the January 6ers, you've got to pay it to the black people. Wait, January 6ers and slavery? What a huge leap. The January 6ers were wrongfully imprisoned. That is, by law, you're entitled to compensation. People today, many over 40% of whom are migrants, are not entitled to reparations for slavery. Particularly when most of them come from the descendants of slave owners, not were slavers. So the people telling you to support Ukraine, no. How about we not support a war? Have you ever tried that? Because I think that would go a long way. I mean, Code Pink, you don't hear them talking about the Ukraine war or any of the, or any of the anti-war group. I'm the only anti-war person I hear from right now who's consistent is Scott Ritter. He's not exactly, and he's, of course, they try to brand him now as a Russian agent because he doesn't want World War III. Now, Robert Fisco, remember, they tried to kill him. Remember, they ousted Viktor Orban because he wouldn't fund Ukraine. And now, what's happened? Hungary won't fund Ukraine. It's slowly happening, as I said it would. At first, it's going to be slow. More and more people are building up the courage to say no to Ukraine. It takes a lot of courage to go against the loud, angry, liberal establishment because they are angry. They do engage in political violence. They do seek revenge. They are not good people. That's why I can never go any peace with them or support them in any way, because they will never, ever forgive you. They will always be mean. They will always be oppressive. They will always want their pound of flesh, no matter how much blood is drawn. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel. You support the channel on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, description below. Scan the QR code on the screen. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video. Bye for now.